All right, good, everyone. We're finishing, with God's help, this speech which the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave at the end of 1991, beginning of 1992, in Parshat Vayigash, which talks about, the subject is the very dramatic meeting between Yosef, who was wrongly imprisoned for 13 years, 12 years, and sold into captivity by his brothers. Miraculously, he gets out of prison and he saves the whole world. And it ends up that even his brothers depend on him for their life. And he saves his brothers, he saves everybody. And he says, don't worry, I don't have to hold any grudge against you, even though I should. No grudge whatsoever. I've suffered terribly in this time, but God intended this for the best, which is a general principle in life, that God intends everything for the best. We can take advantage of that and change the situation a lot of times. A lot of times we just have to accept what there is, but everything is intended for the best, and we'll only see how it was for the best in the Moshiach, who knows, raising of the dead, I don't know. But anyway, the Moshiach, like the Rebbe said, Moshiach is going to come and explain all the trouble and the evil in the world, and he's got a lot of explaining to do. Okay, but now, meanwhile, here's a little bit of an explanation. The Rebbe is the Moshiach, and he's explaining a little bit of how to look at the world. So here we go. Yosef represents the Jewish people, all the how do you say, qualities of good of the Jewish people, intelligence, success, etc., 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 which that can go bad because a person can become an egotist. Yehuda represents humility, usually. But in this week's Torah portion, we see there's another quality presented by Yehuda, and that is defiance. Yehuda, and that's the name of this week's Torah portion. Vayigash means that Yehuda defied Yosef. He said, please don't get mad at me. And Rashi says this implies that he approached Yehuda, who was like a nothing. He approached Yosef, who was everything. He was the king of the world. He approached him with a defiance. So he says, with this power of defiance, this is the power, the Jewish power of defiance. It comes from the essence of the Jewish soul. And we can see the similar thing with Mordechai, a Yehudi. The whole miracle of Purim, which is going to be soon, that Mordechai did the same thing. He defied Haman. Haman ruled over the whole world, and he defied him. He defied it. He did. Everybody else was bowing down to him, and he refused to bow down. And he refused to bow down. Mordechai. Huh? So says the Rebbe that that's the whole secret of the future redemption. The secret of the future redemption is that we must, first of all, maintain Jewish identity, maintain good in the face of, and defy the bad in the world. Al Pia now, according to this, Yuvan, we can understand what we can learn from Yigash Alav Yehuda, but again, regarding to our generation, our Tukufatenu, and our era. We are standing right on the threshold, on the door. What is it? The door step of the true redemption and complete redemption of the Jewish people and consequently the world. Now, again, just to stress this whole thing, take it out of the realm of religious fantasy or fanaticism or whatever you want to call it. The world, the way it is now, is definitely not the way it's supposed to be. The world is supposed to be a world without any addictions and any depression and any aggression and confusion. The world now is totally confused, without any obsessions, right? The world is obsessed with sex now. It's going berserk. Just totally berserk. People just don't know what to do. It's like, they're convoluting inside of themselves, looking for meaning inside of their meaninglessness, just like a dog chasing his tail, even worse, like a dog eating his tail in the world. And aggression, you don't have what to say, and confusion. The world is not supposed to be that way. There is tremendous potential in the world, in every single human being, for good, for improvement, for love, for kindness. And that's the idea of Geula. The idea of Geula is to reveal the godliness, the goodliness, the creatorness inside of each and every human being, beginning with the Jews, because the point of the Jews is to tell the world that there is a creator, and this creator is creating everyone, and he's creating everyone for a purpose and empowering every person to do that purpose. And that purpose is found in every moment of life, in every situation, in every challenge, in every the opportunity, difficulty, whatever. Like I said before, God is good. That's called Geula. Geula means that we will be aware that we are being created, and that we are being created by the ultimate good God. And that this physical world is infinitely, infinitely higher than the spiritual worlds and all the heavens and things that people want to go to. But because it's not revealed here, so everybody just wants to go to heaven. Okay? That's what it means, the future Geula, that all of the potential good which is now concealed in the world, hence all the confusion and bad and evil and anger and things like this, frustration, are dominant in the world. But when the good is revealed, all those bad things will go away. The world can get along very, very well without obsessions and without the depression. And those are not necessary ingredients in the world. Okay. So that we're standing right on the threshold of this. And that's what Mashiach is going to do. And that's what the Rebbe, who is the Mashiach, is trying to do. It's trying to educate us to who we are. Me believe without any. Habet ala tokif shel Yehuda, without, notwithstanding the defiance of Yehuda now in our time, and on Yehuda, Bismano, in his time. Let me get my pointer over here. But Mordechai in his time, and all of the other tzaddikim and righteous Jews and Jews and all the generations that stood up for good and refused to bow down to Haman and to the church and to Stalin and to the Nazis and to this and that, they refused to bow down to the powers of how do you say, of destruction. And so you becall the doors on all the generations. There were always all sorts of limitations in all the generations, mitzad umas olam, because of the non-Jews, because they wrote them and their decrees on the Jews, Rahman Natzlan. It should not be right. The Crusades and the what was it? What do they call it? All these expulsions and Shalot Tamid Ifsharu Lebnei Israel. Didn't always pogroms. Didn't always let the Jews do what they wanted to in the world, which is not the case now. In our case now, Ra'im B'Po, we see clearly Shalot Kaimu Bilbulim Shabavar. It's not like it was before. In our generation, the Rebbe is speaking 1992. The communists are not ruling over us. The church is not ruling over us. The Nazis are not ruling over us. Right? Anti-Semitism is not as violent as it used to be. There's no pogroms. There's no more expulsions. No official anti-Semitism. But Umat Olam, the nations, Mafshirim, they allow the Jewish people to do whatever they want to do. And therefore, the only problem now is just us. It's not the only problem. Each and every person, it's his own problem. Every person is free to worship God, do Torah, commandments, whatever they want to. That it all depends on us. We have to be the Yehuda. We have to be the Mordechai of our generation. Who is our enemy? We ourselves, not ourselves. Me, myself, to myself. My own doubts and my own my own misconceptions about myself. Like it is many places in Kol HaTokef, a bright kite, like it should be in a wide way. So no, that's certainly not so. That's ridiculous. That's what somebody wrote. I don't know if everybody can see this. Anti-Semitism is, what are you talking about? How can you possibly say something like that? There used to be, the countries would make decrees against the Jews. There's no such thing now. There's no country in America and even in the worst country in the world. I don't know, take what country you want to. There's no decree against the Jews. There's no country in the world that makes decrees against the Jews anymore. No such thing. No such thing. Every country, every place where you are, you can be in Iran, you can whatever you can do, you can worship Torah, do Torah commandments. It all depends on our own defiance of ourselves. What they're talking about, the land of Israel, the land of America, Malchus Chesed, they allow the Jewish people to do according to whatever they decide on their own. Al-Derech says similar, many countries in the world. In the last years, we see how it is in the countries that were before without any limitations. These batlu, agavulos, elu, the hagbalos, elu, they are, these limitations have gone away. Here you see, like in America now, right? So they're anti-Zionists. They want to be anti-Zionist. No one is going to come out and say, I'm against the Jews. Once in a while, a few maniacs over there, Farrakhan and these guys, right? Those guys are just super losers. Who listens to them? Who listens to now that this one guy stood up in America, talked against the Jews? It doesn't go, right? But there is the anti-Zionist, the anti-this. Okay, they disguise it and still it's nowhere near as bad. The United Nations makes all these, what is it, the condemnations of Israel, but they don't say, okay, let's kick them all out. The Jews got expelled from France. They got expelled from Spain, from Portugal, from England. England was first. They got expelled from Italy. They got expelled from all these different places, expelled. They were put in nothing like that today. What are you talking about? Every country in the world, they even support Judaism. Adarabah. Lozu bilvad, not only that the Jewish people are free to do whatever they want to in the countries, Eliyaterim is even more. The nations actually help the Jews. But in addition to this, that the Jewish people are able to act in a way of doing Torah mitzvahs in their own little area. We can see even more. The last years, the most recent years. Of course, the Rebbe is saying this 30 years ago, but it's still the same thing now. It's easier and easier to do to be successful wherever you are. Yechazubo, that's talking about how the Jews succeeded in Egypt, right before the Paro came along and made decrees. But every single place in the whole ends of the world, Mikivan sends to the Olam, Lo Rak B'nai Israel, not only the Jews, but even the non-Jews who klil kabel and yanim shel yadut. The whole world is ready to receive the message of Judaism, Torah mitzvahs, olam, and the 7 Noahide commandments. Here the Rebbe said, for instance, I think it was 1986, I think it was, and the Rebbe said that we see that there's no rabbinical, what's called responsa. There are books and books written of questions which were asked to great rabbis and the amazing answers that they gave. Some very difficult questions in Judaism, about divorce and women that her husbands left them, and all types of Judaism is very, very, in its essence, is very, very, very complicated. The laws are very complicated laws, dealing with every little aspect of life. And therefore, you have to have rabbis to explain what to do in every aspect. So there's books that are written on almost everything. Almost nothing is written on the 7 Noahide commandments. And the Rebbe said the reason is very simple. Up to now, it's been dangerous. You couldn't go to the church and say that they're wrong. Go to some country, go to whatever it is in France and say that Catholicism is wrong, it's false, right? You have to, one of the first of the 7 Noahide commandments is you have to believe only in God, right? Idolatry is forbidden. Christianity is idolatry. You can't say that. You can't say a thing like that, right? Nowadays you can say it. Now you have your opinion. I have my opinion. What's wrong? They've been talking against us for 2,000 years. We can talk against them for 10, 15 minutes. It's the problem. Maybe they get angry. They said, how can you say this, etc. But the country's not going to say, we're shutting down Judaism. How can a Jew, we're going to burn you all at the stake. That's the way it used to be. That's the way it used to be. And now we can go, the Rebbe said, don't have to be afraid. You can talk to the non-Jews about the 7 Noahide commandments. Then there's nothing to be afraid of. That's what the Rebbe said. That was already, 35 years ago. Now it says you can talk about them with the seven Noahide commandments, and with no problem. Until like we said many times in the past, those according to the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Kavar Saimu, we've already finished all the preparations for the future redemption. Okay, and now we have to draw down the redemption, the poil, actually in the physical world now. Physical to reveal it. I mean, what are we proposing? That there's a creator, creates everyone. Everyone should worship only their creator. That's all. You don't have to worship somebody out that lived 1,000 years ago, or lived some spirit or some ghost or something like that. You live, you're alive, you exist, you're there. Worship the God that's enlivening you, that's creating you. That's all. And he has a plan. There's what's called 7 Noahide commandments. 7 Noahide commandments are also very, very complicated. They also deal with every moment of life. Not like Judaism. Okay, say non-Jews don't have to keep Shabbat. They don't have all these kosher laws and things like that. But it's still how to act, how to be honest in business. That Kavan sin shabali bet Allah tokef avoda shobnei Israel begalut. Since that, without notwithstanding the defiant and brave service of the Jewish people in exile. Even though they're found in Geula Ruchnit, even now when we're still, I mean, the fact is we're still in exile, right? One of the obvious sign that we're not in the future redemption is that all the Jews are not doing Torah and the commandments. The Beit HaMikdash has not been built yet in the land of Israel. God is going to build it. And consequently, after the temple is in Israel, so all the Jews will go to the land of Israel in order to do all the commandments. Okay, that does not exist yet. So obviously we're still in exile. But nevertheless, Jews are still free to do everything they can to bring this future redemption. The galut. There is all of the, the conduct, we're still in exile. Banim shagalu mi'al shulchan avim. Everywhere you look, you can see that we're in exile. There's no doubt about it. You can see Jews that don't do Torah and commandments. You can see that the majority of the Jews are not living in Israel. Including Israel, that the Jewish people, they are the Jewish people. Aguna. The Jewish people are like an abandoned wife. Shabala, God, halach lamedinat hayom, that God has estranged us, so to speak. La'achari arusin. There was the marriage party. We went out of Egypt. We had an engagement party. We even had the wedding party, but we didn't consummate the wedding. Begula mitit v'shlema. V'hayom now tzorich rach liftoach et einayim. All we have to do is just open up the eyes. We have to open up our eyes, how it is that the whole world is demanding that every single Jew should be already b'mamad u'matzav b'geula b'mitit v'shlema. The world needs it. Yesh lomer, we can say shezeh gufa, that this itself, hu atam, is the reason that we see now b'nei Israel, that the Jewish people are able to lamod b'inyan yadut, to stand firmly in matters of Judaism, in kol tokef u'balabatish, and they can be, even to the degree that they can be, leaders of the non-Jews. It just depends on us. Here we have the example, the most blatant and ridiculous example is in Israel, right? Is in Israel. Here, take the example. We won the 6-day war. What did the government do in Israel? They stood up and they gave back land. We don't want to be conquerors. We're not conquerors with it. In the Knesset itself, there's a very big contingent of Jews that say that we are conquerors and we are the bad guys, and the Hamas, they're the good guys, they're freedom fighters, and really there is. It only depends on our desire, what we want. Because we're standing right immediately in front of the future redemption, that will be revealed how it is David Avdi Nasi Aleim La'olam, that there'll be a leader which will come from King David. V'yodu Agoyim, the non-Jews will know that I am God. Lochen, therefore, Ze Mishtakef, Bepoel, B'matzav Shel Dorinu. This is our generation, Kahachana. Our generation is the preparation that will bring immediately to the future redemption by means of Mashiach. The whole world is ready. But the problem is, are we ready? This also hints at by Yigash of Yehuda. This is also hinted at that Yehuda came close. Sheyached et siyua im siyua shel tokef avoda shel Yosef. That Yosef, of course, helped. Yosef agreed, right, with Yehuda. Who is Yosef? That's the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. His name was Yosef Yitzchak. But there's also Vayigash of Yehuda. There's also the Mashiach, Shavobakar of Mamish, that is going to come and reveal himself immediately. David Avdi Nasi Aleim La'olam. King David, he will be the leader forever. Shabo B'Siyua the Natinas Koach Yosef. This comes from the Yosef of our generation. The previous Rebbe, in other words, is saying the previous Rebbe is going to help me. Kamocha Kaparo, Paro of Kedusha. As Paro is calling, Paro means to be revealed. Mikol Mokom, nevertheless, Gam Limud Mizeh, we can learn now for our generation. Al Yedezeh by means of this, Shemit Nagim Ba'oven Bayigash Alav Yehuda, that we act in a way of defiance. Shemarim Be'ene Yadut, Betokef, in a how do you say, assertive way, a friendly way, of course. Ubalabatios Be'yoto Yehudi, and because he's a Jew, Shebishvil Yisrael, that because of the sake of the Jews, it says the world was created. The world was created for the Jewish people to educate it. We're supposed to tell the world that God exists and that God creates everyone. And that's the God of the Jews that took us out of Egypt, created the world in 6 days. It says 10 commandments, right? 10 commandments. I am God that took you out of Egypt. God is giving the Torah. 4th commandment is I created the heavens and the earth. And Chassidut explains, means that he's creating it all the time. That's the job of the Jews, to tell everybody. Harizeh Gufo, this itself brings David Avdi Nasi Aleim. We just have to tell everyone that it's so, and this is what will bring Mashiach to be revealed. Okay. Okay, so what's the Rebbe saying? You have to be proud of your Judaism. You have to be assertive of your Judaism, and the world needs you to do this. The world is waiting for you to do this. People will come to the land of Israel and they'll say, this is supposed to be the Holy Land. It says in the Bible, it's the Holy Land. This has to be a Holy Land. What do they see? Bizarre, decadent parades and all sorts of missionaries, idolatry running around the place. And you have to worry about terrorist the attacks, which were armed by the Jews themselves. So the Jews are encouraging Gilei Arayas, Shvichas Damim, and Avodah Zarah. And they're trying to even change the identity of who was a Jew. You don't have to have a good conversion. You don't have to have a conversion at all. If your father was a Jew, he was converted by someone who he also wasn't a Jew. You're Jewish, that's good. And so the Jewish people, all they have to do is one thing: be strong. That's all. That's the whole thing. So the Jews were the problem, says the Rebbe. He's just trying to put into us a little bit of, how do you say, a courage. And the whole world is suffering from this, the whole world, because the world needs some sort of stability, and there isn't any in the world. Someone has to stand up and say, hey, that the Torah is true. The Torah was given by God. The Torah says, this is what you're supposed to be, right? 7 Noahide commandments. Homosexuality is bad. All these weird ideas that people have about the no more family, no more family, there's no more good, there's no more bad, there's no more you could do, the abortions, these things. It says, God says here, this is God's book. This is not a religious book. This is God's book. God creates you, right? You're religious. You're not religious. God is not religious. God is creating the whole world, and he's creating it according to certain principles and laws. One of them is there's good and there's bad. Idolatry is bad. Murder is bad. Licentiousness is bad. Decadence is bad. Okay. The Indian, that's what it means by Yigash Alav Yehuda. What is good the creator. What is good? You are good. You are made in the image of God. Every human being is made in the image of God. God will help you. God likes you. He's creating you. That's our message to the whole world. That's what it means. But we have to be assertive. Vayigash alav Yehuda hatokef v'balabati shel bnei Israel, that the Jewish people really, they're supposed to be the directors of the world. But Doreinu zeh, this is especially on the day of Hey Tevis. What happened on the day of Hey Tevis? Back then, just like now, it was on Thursday. And this is, yes, this is Zayin. Yom zeh kashur l'shichur pidyon shavuim, of the books. L'ksavim shel Rabbeinu B'sienu. Here the Rebbe is saying this in what, 1990, beginning of 1992. So it was in 1988, just a few years before that there was a whole thing with the books, and that there was somebody in the family of the Rebbe, somebody in the family of the Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher's Rebbe's grandson, that he decided that when the previous Rebbe passed away, that Chabad ended, and now they had to divide up all of the possessions of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he started taking books out of the library. They happened to be very precious books also. They were very expensive books. And he claimed that it was his. There was a whole big trial given, and the trial was basically, is the Rebbe or not, or did it end with the previous Rebbe? And the trial lasted like a year, and I mean, the trial lasted, about a half a year, and then it was about another year until the decision came in. And the decision came in that on Hey Tevis, that the other side, the one that had to give back all the books, he was totally wrong. He had no right whatsoever. All of his claims were totally fabricated, and he lost the case in every way. And all the books were given back, I think, mostly. And it was a tremendously happy day, because these books are, first of all, they're Jewish books and they're religious books, and they're books, some of them were from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe's. And these books were part of the library of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe that he risked his life in order to take out of Russia, and also to get taken out of Europe when the war started. But they were part of the identity and the power of Chabad. When these books came back, and of course Chabad is the only movement which is totally devoted to bringing Mashiach. Which is totally devoted to bring Mashiach. So if Chabad would stop, then there's no movement totally devoted to bring Mashiach. Right? The Mashiach coming, so the whole topic, all these things would have been gone. But Hey Tevet, when the books came back, was a tremendous victory day for Chabad, and consequently for Judaism, consequently for the world. But Yesh Namadayim, there are still some books. There's even handwritten documents from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe and from his father that are still not here. A lot of them are still back in Russia, and they have not been. The Putin has a lot of these, thousands, who knows, of books. Dvar Malchut, the Gam Shel Umat Olam, that they have to be released. Putin allowed them to go into film, to take pictures of all the books. This is especially with that in the last days there was a big change in Russia itself. I don't exactly know what it is, but I know that Petersburg, I think, was changed to Leningrad, and then in like 1991 they changed it back from Leningrad to be St. Petersburg again, to be Petersburg. And there's something about how the capital, it was also declared to be the capital again in some sort of a way. I don't know. I mean, Moscow is still the capital. I looked it up and I couldn't exactly figure out what happened, but its official status did change. And the name for sure changed. Until it became into another city. Somehow or other from Moscow, Petersburg also became like a twin, whatever city. I have to do more investigation what it is. So the Russian government decided to, like it says, Dina de Malchut Dina, the law of the country is the law. So if so, what should we actually do in order to bring these books back? The answer is simple. By means of this, that each and every person, man, women, and children, should do should do something similar. What? They should bring into his house books. redeem books from the bookstores, bring them into your house, Sifrei Kivrei Kodesh, the Divrei Torah, words of Torah. Add on books and learn the books. Your house should be full with books, Jewish books, genuine Jewish books. Okay, Yom, Harizet, Davar Kalbiyot. Now it's very easy. Even should be called Shavua. Every week are printed new books and new topics. There's some that are reprinted. And the main thing, there's new books that are always coming out. Therefore, it's easy to purchase books. The Rebbe had a huge, huge library. Huge library. But Kach Lahosif, and to add on more in receiving, buying and receiving books. Kafish Yadu, like it's known, the explanation of the Rebbe on this. She's safer that a book has to cost money. And even more, he said that he even ordered that some books you should even put the price of the book on some of the to stamp the price of the book on the inside of the book. Mishum, because in this world, olam, which means concealment, and haridavar chashuv, an important thing costs money. That's the way things go. I mean, listen, you can see how precious money is. Yesoda b'mam Razal, asya the magin b'magin, magin shava. It says of a healing that costs nothing is worth nothing. Halakas kama, how much more so shekain tzorich lios benogea ledivrei Torah. And she Torah, maybe refuah la'olam, Torah brings healing to the world. The call Azaris, and anyone who is alacritous and this quick, this is better. Shekablu al-chlatas, that you should buy books. You should do as soon as possible, including to make order books, buy new books that are coming now, or safer moto take of them. Then you can just order books and they'll come to your house automatically, prepay or whatever. And similarly, it's a good thing to use the custom of the Jewish people to give holy books, gifts to other people, including children. For bar mitzvahs or for birthdays, etc. Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Sha'al Yedei Zeh, by means of this, that each and every Jew, Yarchiva Pu'ulotov, should widen his activities in buying new books, receiving new books, Jewish books. Listen, the Jewish people are called the people of the book, and the Jewish people were born and with a book. The Jewish people, God took the Jews out of Egypt in order to give them the Torah. And the Torah has been the basis and foundation and definition of the Jewish people. The fence around the Jewish people, it's been their protection as well. Since it's been given 3,300 years ago, and there's people that have tried to chip away at the Torah and to reinterpret the Torah and to defile the Torah and to de-emphasize the Torah. But the main thing is the Torah. And the Torah is the source of good and the definition of good in the world. Without the Torah, there's no good or bad. Everything goes. Whatever you want to. Here we saw just the Nazis couldn't say any better example than the Germans. Germany was the most civilized, developed, intellectual country in the world in the 20s, the 30s. All the science came from Germany, all this. Right, that they had the idea that they were the superior race. They had what to base on, right? Some of the greatest, the scientists and physicists and all the psychiatrists, but most of them were Jews. But that all came from Vienna, from Germany. Germany, how they loved Germany, how the Jews loved Germany, right? They were crazy for Germany. That's where Reform Judaism was born, because of the love of German culture and German this and this, right? And they had philosophies with all sorts of ethics and things like that. And from them came worse than the worst destructive animal in the world. I don't think there's anything worse than that. Even though Japan also did some pretty, I mean, people are pretty cruel. Japan also were pretty, really cruel, but not on the scale that the Germans were. Not on the scale that the Germans. Okay. Shekol is warning that all the books, the Kotuvim, Shel Rabbeinu, and the Sienu, they should come back. All the books of the previous Rebbe should come back to their proper place. Beis Rabbeinu Shebabavel. Beis Rabbeinu Shebabavel. The Rebbe is going to discuss this. We discussed it before, but it says in the Talmud. It says in the Talmud of Megillah, that the Jewish people in exile, there's one main place. That's the Beit HaMikdash, which is found outside of Israel. There's one main place where Torah is spread out to the whole world. And that's what's called Beit Rabbeinu Shebabavel, the house of our rabbi in Bavel. And then it says in the future that it's going to fly back to Israel with all the other synagogues. And they're going to link themselves up to the Holy Temple. This is, this is mainstay Judaism, even though it's pretty fantastic, but nevertheless it is. It says in the Talmud, okay, so that, and 770 is the numerical value of Paratzta. Listen, you have to realize, the Judaism is based on miracles, right? There were the 10 plagues, God split the sea, God spoke to all the Jews. This is the basis of Judaism. Took them out of Egypt. This is not just a history story. This is our, our foundation. That God exists and that God cares and that God does miracles and he changes the world and he changes nature in big ways and in small ways. For all the Jewish nation and for each and every individual Jew. Okay. Anyway, so we should be not surprised if big miracles don't happen soon, and we should be very disappointed if they don't occur soon. But says the Rebbe, but on the other hand, it depends on details and it depends on the books, learning Jewish books. Visham and Starfim, everybody, that's the idea of 770. That's the Holy Temple outside of Israel. The Gematria Paratzta. Visham, then, remember last week it says it's also the same letters as Sarfat, France. That France is Visham and Starfim, Lakala Svorim, that all the books will all be joined together. But take of them yet immediately. This will bring with it at Pidyon Shavuyim Shal Nitzitzei Kedusha, that the sparks of holiness in the whole world will be redeemed. Remember, we learned about that in the beginning of the week, the money that the Jews took out of Egypt. But take of them yet and immediately. Mamish, really, Ochim Kol Ben Israel, all the Jewish people. Bin Areinu B'Skeinu, our youth, our elders. B'Beneinu B'Nasenu, our sons and our daughters. B'Kaspam B'Zahavam Mitam, with their money and the silver and the gold with them. Including all the books. I was told by there's a lot of Moroccan Jews, especially in Chabad. Chabad basically saved Judaism in Morocco. As soon as the French influence came in, the Alliance, all the youth were immediately drawn to secularism. And in any case, Chabad came over there and they saved all. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he sent representatives over there in the 40s, in the late 40s. In any case, so they told me that there were a lot of tzaddikim in Morocco, a lot of very holy Jews in Morocco, and a lot of them, when they moved to one place to another, or they had to run away from one place to another, so they buried their writings. They buried them, put them in chests, and they buried them. And some of these people were tremendously genius, super genius people, and they buried them. So all these books also have to come back. Okay. The Yerushalayim, they'll come back to Yerushalayim, Yira Kodesh, the Hara Kodesh, to the holy land, and then to the holy city, Jerusalem, to the holy mountain, and to the holy temple, the third temple, the Kodesh Kadoshim, to the holy of the holies. Shabonim Sam Evan Ashti, and there is found what's called the foundation stone of the world, without any change from the time of the creation of the world. And all of this should happen immediately now. Okay, here we go. Let us do the Yom Yom for today. Should we turn this up? We'll turn it off. Let's not make the same mistake.